Now, let's remember that 30 years ago, the mainstream media said the Bilderberg Group didn't exist. But Dr. John Coleman from Deep Research has found the documents about the Committee of 300. And he believes it's the overall control grid. Now the group he describes certainly exists, and we know that's the power nexus through these letter of marques that were given by the British Crown to these families that then merged with the Dutch and others, and, of course, took control of this nation. You've got the floor, sir. So what is the Bilderberg Group? Just one of the key meeting groups of...
The Bilderbergers was founded at a place called the Bilderberg is in Holland, and that was under the control of the old Dutch prince, and it was there that they had their first meeting in the town of Bilderberg. And of course,
yeah, Oosterbeek, Holland. But I mean, my question is, how does it tie in? Because then when you research Bilderberg, you find out it was a group that had been meeting for hundreds of years and just ties into the Dutch and German arm of this same committee.
Yes, well, what these people do, they take names that date back hundreds of years, and then they co-opt those names for their societies today. And, what you're looking at is a loosely-knit group of people, as I said in my book, with commonly held goals. It's not the case that there's some just group meeting socially. In fact, the Committee of 300 has a 150-year-old history, and they have some of the most brilliant and intellectual assembled to form a complete totalitarian, absolutely controlled new society, like the New World Order inside a one-world government.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So when did you first discover the term Committee of 300 in the power structure, and what is their goal?
Their goals are, they want to have an open... H.G. Wells, who was an earlier member of their elite coterie, he wrote a work called The Open Conspiracy's Plan for a World Revolution, and it was a bold statement of intent, which nobody believed, of course. Wells accepted this, and he brought the conspiracy, and it says that, I'll quote you some of it, can't do it all. The open conspiracy will appear first, I believe, as a conscious organization of intelligent, in some cases wealthy men, as a movement having distinct social and political aims, confessedly ignoring most of the existing apparatus of political control, or using it only as an incidental implement in the stages, a mere movement of a number of people in a certain direction, prepared to discover with a sort of surprise the common object of which they are all moving. In all sorts of ways, they have been influencing and controlling the governments of the world. And, George Orwell mentioned something about this in his book 1984. So that's really what they plan to do.
And I remember reading that H.G. Wells quote because he wanted this global world government and talked about how they would exterminate most of the people. And, of course, he was one of their top thinkers. But that particular quote you just gave, where does that come from again?
That comes from his paper. I'll read it to you. The Open Conspiracy, Plans for a World Revolution. That's what it's called.
Yeah, Plans for a World Revolution. We've got to do another paper on that.
I found this document in the British Museum in London, which is one of the greatest repositories of information in the world. I was privileged, of course, having special access to certain areas that are closed to the public. But that's where I found most of this work that I've written about.
Well, he was quite open about a lot of it in books like The New World Order.
Oh, yes, he was. But, I mean, what I'm talking about is the formation of it in the beginning was kept very secret.
And, of course, Cecil Rhodes tied into this, didn't he?
Oh, yes, he was financed by the Lord Alfred Milner. Lord Alfred Milner was an autocrat who'd made huge fortunes in Russia. And he sent Rhodes out, actually, to South Africa to gain control of the enormous wealth of diamonds and gold, which had just been discovered there. And Rhodes, with unlimited money behind him, went around buying up all the claims of the prospectors. There was really no mining of any kind going on. And from that small beginning, and they still have this all centered in the City of London, which is a private preserve, financial preserve of the Committee of 300. The City of London is totally different from London itself. It's a financial center. And Rhodes was, of course, sent out with unlimited money, and he bought up most of the claims of the small miners. And when the opportunities came to start mining on a big scale, they were there and waiting and had all of the appropriate wealth to back it up. And today, of course, the mines in South Africa are the biggest in the world. They have a gold seam that stretches for 200 miles east to west. And it's not just some small couple of nuggets. I've been down those mines. You go down 6,000 feet in a cage that drops like a stone. And if you don't have a strong stomach, don't try it. And you get down to these places where they're working, the places, and they are enormous, 20-foot high.
Stay there, Doctor. Well, I tell you, 10 years ago, you never saw in news headlines about the Bilderberg Group. Here's the Times of London. Secretive Bilderberg Club ready for protest. And it's a high-powered meeting of Committee of 300 members, but it's not as secretive as the overall Committee of 300. And I've researched this, and our guest is dead on and has the documents, and he has the book, which you could call the Bible of conspiracy theories, but it's not theories, it's fact. And, of course, that's the Committee of 300. Coleman300.com is the website. And we cover their endgame eugenics agenda in, of course, my film, Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. And, folks, this isn't a joke. You know, they stalled you and said there's no secret groups, there's no world government, there's no derivatives, the bankers aren't engaged in fractional reserve banking, the government's not shipping in narcotics, everything's fine, go back to sleep. Now they admit all that's happening, but saying it's good. Fox TV says we're growing opium, it's good. Yes, world government's real, but it's good. Well, from my research, this ends with a authoritarian world government with one-child policy at the bare minimum. Now, you were finishing up going down the diamond mines, and, of course, the De Beers Oppenheimer global diamond monopoly set up by the Milner Group. I've read documents from Milner at the end of World War I in 1919. These are public, saying we've got to get some type of thug dictator in Germany and set them up for the next war. I mean, that's the wide-reaching, long-term view. So they get Wall Street and the general public in a quarterly mindset, only thinking about the present and profits now, but they're all positioned for the long-term win. Okay, and we get so many intellectuals on here and researchers who say, oh, no, the elite are short-sighted. But when you look at their long-term plans, their admitted Ford Foundation operations, Brzezinski's 25- and 50-year plans. No, of course, the political science head at Georgetown, Carol Quigley, he says 30-year, 50-year plans. So, no, it is quarter-century time frame, bare minimum, as Aldous Huxley, part of these elite families, wrote. In 1933, it's all coming true. So going back to Dr. Coleman, what is their end game then? What is their final agenda? Should we be concerned about these autocrats running everything?
We should be very concerned if we want to keep our republic. And the United States is not a democracy, it's a republic. Let me make that clear. You cannot have a democracy in a confederated republic. Our principles may be democratic, but our actual form of government is Republican. That should settle that question. And, of course, we ought to be concerned because here you have an organization that's permeated every strata of our society. It's into the members of the Senate and the House, and it does everything regarding controlling our foreign policy, our monetary policy, and everything that the government issues or talks about or makes its policy comes originally out of the Committee of 300. Now, that sounds awfully far-fetched. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, this guy, he's off the wall. Well, they said that to me in 1972. They told me to go and hang myself. They did all kinds of nasty things to me. But if you look back at my record, you'll find that I've made over 500 predictions. I hate to use the word, but I said these things were going to happen in the future, and I think most of them, we went through them just the other day, and most of them have come to pass. So I think I've got a fairly good record as far as...
Well, you've done the research. I mean, these scallywags are on record if somebody just digs through the government archives and stacks, and you've been preeminent in exposing the overall black nobility, I guess you could call them, the committee.
That's right.
And of course, would you agree with some of the other historians we've had on that this ties into England, Germany, the Dutch, but also the model that the British picked up out of some of the Italian families?
Oh, absolutely. The Italian families, like the Renatis, they were the model of this organization, and most of these people, the old Florentine and Venetian black nobility, they were not black, their skins weren't black, but they were known as black nobility by the people of the cities because their deeds were so evil that they could not stand the light of day. And they didn't take too much trouble to hide them either. That's why they called them the black nobility. And, you know, that's the dynasty that Queen Victoria of England sprang from.